Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. This is FIDE Master Viktor Neustroev. What can you say about the sound, the quality of the video? Is it fine or looks like not everything works good today? Mhm. Okay, able to connect. Okay, it's good for. Okay, so guys, those who came to the webinar for the first time, can you introduce yourself? Where are you from? What's your FIDE or maybe chess.com elo is? So so there was a problem with connection, but I think it's not actually. Maybe you couldn't connect because I just started the webinar recently, just 1 minute ago. So that's why you were not able to connect to the webinar because it wasn't started. Okay, good. Oh, we have a chess player, Dennis from United States with almost 2200. Good. Dan from Canada with 160. Okay, hello, Michael. Lawrence from Germany with FIDE rating about 1900. Okay, Thai. Okay, I see. Okay, yeah. So everyone who, everyone who at least know the rules of chess and don't blunder pieces in one move can join this webinar and find it helpful. Okay, fine. So what we are going to do today? We are going to analyze how to play against the London system successfully with black pieces. I'm going to share my experience, and also we are going to analyze two games played by uh, German Grandmaster Bluebaum. Okay, so can you see the board? Okay, perfect. And by the way, if you want, you can suggest the topic of the next webinar, and maybe the next webinar will be devoted to the topic you suggest. For example, you decide, like you want to know how to play French defense. I can show it, for example, because I am quite experienced in French defense. When I was much younger, that was my primary opening, and I played it maybe for 10 years. Coordinates. Okay, yes, sure. Coordinates. Perfect. Best response for c4 for black. Good. So, okay, let me type it here. Of course, Sicilian, what to play against Alapin? Okay, so yes, you suggested good topics. King's Indian defense for who? Which color? Actually, okay. So how to play against Alapin? Yeah, this is a good question because I know. However, sometimes I still have some problems with a Lapin variation playing it for black because it's okay. I can equalize the position, but I just sometimes don't know how to overtake the initiative. This is the problem. Jabava system. Okay, what is Jabava system? Or maybe you think that we should spend a webinar that is devoted to how to get the style of Jabava, how to play in the style of Jabava, something like that. So second, London Jabava system, bishop c3. London with knight c3. What? Okay, I know. It's not London. It's okay. I actually forgot the name of this opening, but it's yeah, it's not Jabava system. Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah. Also, if you have any other suggestions, you can message me at tricksofchess@gmail.com. This is my email. Okay, fine. And before we start, I also want you to know that the PGN analysis of this line that I'm going to share with you today will be shown inside our Tricks of Chess group on chess.com. So this is a chess club with Tricks of Chess name. So here is the link. You can join. And later I will post here. For example, once we analyzed how to play against Smith-Morgan Gambit, and then I uploaded PGN here. So maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, you can find here a post that is devoted to London variation, and PGN will be attached. Okay, so who wants PGN? Go there. I will publish it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Okay, fine. So let's start. How to play London system. So, of course, d4. How do people play here? It depends on what is your primary opening. For example, I play Slav defense, semi-Slav defense, and that's why here I reply with d5. But I believe many of you prefer to play King's Indian or Queen's Indian or Nimzo Indian. So, and they play Knight f6. However, if you see that your opponent gonna play London, he usually plays Bishop f4, then you can choose to play d5, and then you'll be transposed to the line that I'm going to show today. Okay, so however, I prefer to start with this more d5, bishop f4, knight f6, or c5 immediately. Usually people here play knight f3, then knight f6. You know that in this position, maybe bishop g5 can be played. It's not a good move. So bishop g5. Is usually faced with knight e4, actually. So knight e4, it's not a good move. And black is fine there. But if bishop f4, then of course we play c5. I know that some people play e6 in this position and can still get a perfect position. Okay, so this is a good question from Richard. How about d4, c5, bishop f4? So, Richard, if I were playing this position for black, I would take on d4 and then play knight c6 with a tempo. Looks like it's similar to... No, actually, wait. Here, knight c6 works, but maybe d6 is a better option. Threatening with e5. But the main problem that if you play c5 as the first move, then after d5 you have a lack of space, and it can be difficult for you to play, especially if you are not familiar with this type of the positions. Okay, so d4 and d5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop f4, c5. We are trying to ruin his center, and here you have nothing to worry about. For example, he takes the pawn, then just play e6 and gain it for free. There is nothing he can do to save the pawn. For example, b4, then a5, c3, b6. So what's the idea? If he takes, we take here first, check, and then take on b6 with our queen. And because of more space and better pieces development, our position is better here. Not much, but slightly, of course. Okay, so bishop f4, c5, this is how we play. And people who play London play e3 in this position. Okay. However, it's white can choose a more flexible move order. So d4, then d5, bishop f4. Then we play. Oh, we can play c5 immediately. We can play knight f6 as well. Richard, I think h3 doesn't make sense. c5, e3. Okay. Knight f6, c3, knight c6. So we came to this position, which is quite popular. Doesn't really matter what the move order was. And the white has here few options. No, actually two. Knight d2 and knight g2 f3. Another option for him is not to play c3 in this position, but to play knight f3, then knight d2 without c3 move. And I will explain how to play against this line without c3 a little bit later by the example of the game Korobov and Bluebaum. Okay, so okay, Richard, as for knight h5, this is a common idea to take this bishop, but not now, because we are not developed. We can't allow this move, especially here the queen can capture just for free. But after knight f3, yes, we should always look for knight h5 and taking this bishop. But he can play bishop g5, bishop e5. He can even ignore and keep the bishop on f4. It depends on the concrete position. So here knight h5 is not recommended, of course. So c3, knight c6, knight d2. Bishop f5. And in this position, there are two moves. So knight g2 f3, and the second move is queen b3. Queen b3, the move that was played against me in my game against Vladan Rabrenovic. We played in Montenegro, and Vladan Rabrenovic is an international master, so he is quite strong, but at the same time, he always gets into time trouble. This is his main problem. He played a game against my friend Arseniy Kargin, who is also an international master, and lost that game, and I'm going to show it today for you. However, let's just learn how to play. So queen b3, this is how people play from time to time, and also Rabrenovic played. And in this position, there are several moves, including queen c8, but the one that I recommend you is queen d7 here. If, for example, the knight is on f3, then I wouldn't recommend queen d7 because of knight e5. Knight e5, we have to take, d takes, and then white is threatening to play bishop b5. But not in this position, while there are no knight on f3. Okay. So knight g f3. If so, then we don't play e6. e6 is faced with knight e5. We play c4 to force the queen to move. Queen goes back. Then e6. This is what was played in the game between Rabrenovic and Kargin. Here, white played knight h4. Logical move, but actually it's not a big problem to let him take on f5. Let me show what happens in the game. Black played bishop e7. Knight takes e5, e takes f5, bishop e2, castle, h3. Maybe h3 wasn't required. In this position, it was much better for white just to castle and be able to play this equal position, but he decided to get something more and played h3 with the idea to maybe start the attack on the king side. Bishop d6, offer a bishop trade. It looks like here white has to take, otherwise bishop f4 and the e file will be under black control. And in this position, black played g6 in that game. It's not a mistake, but at the same time, I can't say that this is the best move. Probably a better move was queen e6. What's the idea of this move? To open the e file. So f4, and like this. Castle queen side, but after castle queen side, queen d6 to protect the f4 pawn, and at the same time to start the attack on the queen side. Okay, however, Arseny played g6, g4, too risky. Knight e7. Again, instead of knight e7, maybe f4 makes more sense. But knight e7 also isn't a bad move. Bishop f3, b5. So now it's too risky to castle to the king side for white. At the same time, if he castles to the queen side, then b4 and the game is almost over. Looks like he should keep the king in the center. That's why he plays king f1. Knight e4. G takes f5, knight takes d2, queen takes d2, knight takes f5. In this position, this knight is better than the bishop. Bishop is restricted by black pawns. And to exploit the advantage of having a bishop, white tries to open the position, but at the same time, it doesn't give him anything, because after knight h4, he had to trade this bishop for a knight, and the position is open, but the king is too exposed. Here, rook e8, then rook e6 to double the rooks. Maybe b4 was a better option. B4 now to open the position and to attack from the other side. King d2. So, and then in the game he took and lost the game in a few moves. Maybe queen move was better, but after queen move, at least rook d8. And if he takes, queen f4 with a strong attack, then rook d4. Yeah, like that. Or if king moves, then queen f3 check. If, for example, in this position, pawn takes, on c3, then queen e6, and he can't really do anything to protect the pawn, because after rook a1, queen a3. He took with the king, and then just rook b8, threatening with queen b4 checkmate. Queen b4 anyway, queen d2 now, and then black just promoted the pawn. So here, Rabrenovic resigned. Actually, he didn't play some huge mistakes. He just he just overestimated his position and decided that he can start the attack with his h3 and g4 moves. You see here, But no, he can't play in this way. And moreover, it's much easier to play this position for black because black at least has one plan, b5, b4, and so on, to try to get more space on the queen side and attack the pawns. So I'm not sure that black can really win this position, but at least here black is playing for a victory. Okay, so what application I'm using? Of course, I'm not going to promote it, but I'm using ChessBase. And no, yes, you can, but I think it's no. I think you can buy it. I'm not sure how expensive it is because I installed this application many years ago, but it is called ChessBase. Okay, fine. Let's go back. So you see, here Rabrenovich played the main move. He played knight f3. Kargin replied c4. The queen has to go back, and then just e6, and it's easy to play this position for black. As for my game, I did the same thing against Rabrenovich in my recent game, and however, he spent about 30 minutes and played this move. And if in the previous game that I demonstrated, he didn't really make huge mistakes. As for this move, I can say that d takes c5 is a definitely mistake because it allows black to occupy the center immediately. e5, bishop g3, bishop takes c5, so he even didn't get extra pawn. Knight gf3, my pawn on e5 is hanging. Bishop d6, bishop b5. The idea of this move is to put more pressure on e5. That's why here I play queen e7. So now I have two attackers, two defenders of my e5 pawn. He plays c4. And in this position, it was much better for me to play a6 and just to force him to take, then I take. And then maybe c5, bishop b8. Queen b6, castle, let him take one of the pawns because then I take the pawn on c5 or he experiences real problems. So here black is able to gain the pawn back and black is slightly better. But I decided to castle. That isn't a mistake, but is a kind of a risky move here because of c takes d5, knight b4. This is what I wanted to play, but it didn't happen in the game. Then rook c1 to stop knight coming to c2, a6, bishop e2, knight b takes on d5. And after he castles, for example, the position is equal. However, in the previous line, black was better, but this position is equal. Okay, but after I castled, wait, where we are? Okay, after I castled, he didn't take on d5. He castled too, and now I'm better. I played a6. Okay, who can tell me what happens if c takes d5 in this position? How does black win immediately? Yeah, of course. Of course, it's knight a5. The queen is hanging. And if queen tries to attack my knight, then after a takes b5, white realizes that the knight is actually protected by my rook. Right. So of course he noticed, he took here b takes, then c5 with the idea to distract my bishop and take on e5. I played bishop to c7, queen c3 to put the pressure on e5. And then the rook f e8 gives more flexibility to black, and this is how I would play now, but at that moment I played knight d7, b4, rook b8. It's not the best plan. Oh, of course, to locate the rook on b8 was a good idea, but here I played rook b5, and it isn't the best move, but I thought that this is how I can provoke him to play a4 and then a5. So rook b7, a5. This is what I wanted to get. I wanted to close the position on the queen side and focus now on the king side. Rook a b8. So doesn't really matter where my rook stays, on a8 or on b8. The main idea was to force his rook to get to a4. So rook a4. Okay, so we close the position on the queen side. Now let's focus on the king side and in the center. What do you think? What plan black should apply here? Attack on the king side with h5. Okay, it's a good idea. Maybe go g5 and h5. Okay. Okay, but not a4. So, guys, you are right about h5 or g5. No, yeah, okay, but not e4, because e4 first gives him a good spot for his knight on d4, and second, trade the bishops, while the bishop on g3 is more the object of the attack. So h5 was the best move. However, I played f6. It's a more solid move, but at the same time, now I understand that h5 was much stronger. Rook c1, knight f8, another solid move. Queen a3, g5 now. So you see here, this bishop on g3 is the object of the attack. He has to save it. He has to get his pieces back to the first rank to be able to allow the bishop to escape. h4, bishop f2. And now probably bishop g6 was a good move. And then somehow continue the attack. But I thought that now when I got rid of his bishop, it's time for me to play e4 to open my dark squared bishop. F takes e4, d takes e4, queen e5, threatening h2. And now just relocate my light squared bishop, put it to d5, where it can not only occupy one of the best diagonals, but also support these two pawns. Okay, what happens next? Bishop e1, this is how he played, probably with the idea to get the bishop to c3. Knight g6, bishop c3. I move my queen to the back rank to get rid of any discovered attack. Knight d2. Okay, I'm waiting for your questions. Oh, wait. Here? No. I have no time to play this move. 96 and my queen is hanging. I have no time to capture on f1. And if, for example, instead of knight g6, I can't play this move. I just blunder. No. So here, knight g6, bishop c3, queen e8, knight d2, knight e5. Knight f5 has an idea of double attack. And here, because white was already in a time trouble, he started making mistakes. Rook f1. What allowed me to play knight g4, double attack his pawns. Oh, of course, h3 was the best solution. Then I take on e3, of course, but anyway, it was much better. Instead, he played this move, and of course, I took on h2 with my bishop. And then I played bishop f5 with the idea to trade, get my queen, and checkmate on h2. Queen b2. How to continue the attack in this position? What do you think black should do? Okay, so queen h5 or rook h7, right? With h3 idea, I played rook h7 just to get more pieces involved into the attack. Bishop e5, knight takes e5, knight d6, queen g6. Maybe queen h5 was a better option. Queen d4, I played h3, g3. How to play now? How here black wins immediately. Queen h5 and then okay. So how to play in this position for black? Knight f3. Knight f3, and what if he takes on f3 and then plays rook f2? No, Michael, rook f8 to fix f6, to protect f6 is too slow. Knight g4, what's the idea of knight g4? Okay, Anusha, queen b1 in that position, just king h2. Maybe knight f3 is not a bad move, but you can find definitely a better way to win here. Oh, okay. So it was a good suggestion from Lawrence. I didn't notice it. Yes, queen h5 and then queen e2, exactly. So then queen comes to e2. He plays rook f2 and simply blunders queen d1. He loses the rook, but at the same time, I can even win immediately without taking this rook on a4. So if he goes here, then knight g4 is a checkmate. If he blocks with his rook, then queen e2, and there is nothing that he can do to stop a checkmate on g2. If, for example, this move, then just h2. On no, knight g4, threatening this checkmate. If he does this, there's queen f3. So he blocked with his knight. Then I traded the queens and decided to take this rook on f2. After that, he resigned. So let's go back. So d takes on c5 was one of the critical mistakes of white in this position, and after e5, black is at least better. Not much, but maybe -1, what means the equivalent of one extra pawn. Okay, so you see, even if such a strong player like international master Rabranovich makes mistakes in his primary openings, then your opponent can do such mistakes too. Okay. So now we learned how to play against queen b3. What if instead knight gf3? Then e6. And if, for example, queen b3 now, then queen d7 doesn't work. If queen d7, then maybe bishop b5 or knight e5. That's why here just queen c8. Moreover, there was a game played between Jordanesco and Bluebaum in this position in 2018. So almost two years passed. So then white played knight h4. Bishop e4, f3, bishop g6. He didn't take on g6, but if he did, then h takes g6, and it's still good. So when black chooses this pawn structure, it's okay to trade a light squared bishop for the knight. So it's not a big problem. At least black can equalize the position. However, in that game, white played g4. Bishop e7, bishop g3, knight d7. Queen d8, knight g6, king f2, because it doesn't make sense to castle when the h file is open. And bishop h4 starting the king side attack, as well as keep in mind the idea to play on the queen side with b5, b4, and so on. Oh, this is what happened in that game. And finally, black castled to get the control over the h file. White didn't really make any weak moves. That's why it's really difficult to win this position for black. That's why then they just repeated and agreed to a draw. No, they both are grandmasters, approximately of the same level. So if, for example, in this position, you see that he plays knight f3 instead of queen b3, just play e6. And in case of queen b3, play queen c8. If, for example, here he does knight h4, then you can play bishop e4. It doesn't make sense to take on e4 because after d takes on e4, it's really difficult for him to play with his h4 knight. So this knight becomes really bad. That's why here f3 should be played. Bishop comes to g6. Knight g6, h take g6, king b3, queen d7. So if you can play queen d7 and you're not afraid of knight e5, then you'd better do this move instead of queen c8. g4, c4, queen goes back, bishop d6. Oh, something like that. f4, b5. g5 can be played because h2 is hanging. And then here black can choose to play on the queen side or on the king side. For example, a5. Maybe it's not the best option, but it keeps black more flexible. So black is not castled. However, after a5, probably on the next move, black can castle king side. To castle queen side is too risky. But you see, one of the best ideas here is to gain more space on the queen side, play b4, and then try to attack the weakness on c3. Okay, fine. Let's go back. We analyzed knight d2 move first. What if instead they play knight f3? Just wait a second, let me find this line of the analysis. So this position, yeah, knight f3. Here we play queen b6, attacking the pawn on b2. As for your moves, bishop g4 or bishop f5, but then queen b3. So queen b6, attacking the b2 pawn. So for example, b3 is a mistake in this position. Then just bishop f5, and we at least are able to equalize and have no problems here at all. b3 usually weakens this diagonal. And of course, the c3 square. Sometimes we can use it, sometimes not. But if white wants to get any advantage, then of course b3 doesn't help at all. So queen b3 is the main move. And this is where I want you to remember that in such a case, it's okay to force him to trade on b6. So we play c4. Queen takes b6, a takes b6, knight a3, for example. Bishop f5. Here, one of the best plans is to advance the pawn to b4 as soon as we can. And in case of knight b5, we just play rook a5, and we are not afraid of any checks. They are just checks and nothing more. a4, but now after e6, so we have several ideas, and a4 pawn can be the object of the attack in future. We can play bishop e7, king d7, and get our other rook to a8 to attack on e4. So here black is slightly better. That's why many people prefer to force black to play c4 and then go to c2 with their queen. And in this position, we can play bishop f5. What's the idea? If he takes, we take on b2, and he loses his rook. If he doesn't take, then we developed our bishop with the temper. And we successfully developed all the pieces. At least the position is equal. I would say maybe it's better for black because the plan is easier for black. So to advance the pawns on that side. That's why instead of queen b3 immediately, he can play queen c2. Oh, yeah, he can play queen c2 immediately instead of queen b3. And if so, just g6. Keep the bishop on c8 for a while. Maybe keep in mind bishop f5. But don't play e6 move because it blocks the light squared bishop. E6 will be a mistake. So just locate the bishop to g7. Then bishop f5, for example. And c4 now. And yeah, this position is still better for black. Oh, we can't play b4 right now, but we can apply the same plan. Maybe we can start the attack here with h6, g5. Maybe knight comes to d7 with the idea to push the pawn to e5. One of the most popular ideas is knight b6, knight a4 to attack the pawn on b2. Why? Because he cannot play rook b1. Our bishop controls the diagonal. You see? Okay, let's go back. Now, instead, another option is queen c1. Still bishop f5, e6. Just develop the pieces and play this position. If knight a5, then c takes d4. So if e takes on d4, he blunders on d4. That's why here he has to take. Then pawn takes. He takes with this pawn. Then c5. So we attack the center. We are trying to get the control over it and improve our pieces' positions. Okay, so from here you may learn that if he plays knight f3 and allocate the pawn on c3, we play queen b6 to attack the pawn on b2, and in case of queen b4, then c4 immediately. If he doesn't do this move, then we just develop our pieces, bishop f5, e6, bishop e7, or g6, bishop g7. By the way, who knows why after queen c2 in this position, bishop f5 is a mistake? Who can tell me? Okay, I'm waiting for more answers. Okay, so actually, yeah, it's not because of queen f5. In case of queen f5, we just take on b2, and we are winning. Yeah, it's because d takes c5, and our queen is hanging. So then bishop c2, we have to play this move, then maybe a takes b6. If so, then knight a3, and this pawn structure doesn't really look good while the diagonal is open. So when the pawn is on c4, it's fine. But when he stops our b5 pawn and we can't really do anything with it, it's bad for us. Moreover, if, for example, here we trade a few more pieces, then these pawns can be really objects of the attack. Okay, so good question. In this variation, is it better always to double the pawns, releasing your rook? Oh, what means a takes b6, releasing the rook? No, it's only good when these pawns are not isolated and are connected to the c pawn. It can be on c4 or c5. If, for example, there is no c pawn, then usually it's a mistake. Okay, fine. So one more thing here I want you to remember. There's just one more line to cover. So if c3 in this position, we play queen b6. In the game between Korobov and Bluebaum, it was played knight bd2. Okay, I'm just waiting for questions. Before we start analyzing this last line. Okay. No, yeah, it's more about the object of the attack. So yeah, so when there is no c pawn, we can't advance the b pawn forward. Okay, so in the game it was knight d2, and I played this position as black 1 year and a half ago when I was playing in Tunisia. I won the game, but I didn't play well at that game. So queen b6. Of course, I played queen b6, and my opponent took d takes c5 like it was in the game between Korobov and Bluebaum. Then queen b2. So we lost the pawn on c5, but got the pawn on b2, and of course the pawn on c5 is more is more a weakness, and black can win this pawn almost any time. But the idea is that this sacrifice on b2 allows white to develop the pieces faster and maybe to open the position in future. So rook b1, queen c3, bishop b5, e6, and not queen c5, because here, yeah, in my game, if I'm not mistaken, I played queen c5. My opponent castled. I played d6, and he played c4. And here I wasn't in trouble for a while, but then I solved my problems and won that game. But actually, I was playing against Arena Grandmaster. So you know that there is a playing zone on FIDE website. It's called FIDE Arena. And if you get a rating about 2000 on FIDE Arena, you can become an Arena Grandmaster. And it's actually an international title. However, we understand that a 2000 player is not grandmaster at all. It's not even a candidate master. Okay, so how to play in this position? E6, because we should develop the pieces. Castle. Oh, if, for example, he does bishop d6, it's fine. Just take, and castle. Let's take the pawn on d6 later, maybe with queen c5, queen takes d6. So e6, he castles. Then what do you think? How to play this position for black? How to continue the development? a6 first. I think in case of a6, he takes on c6 and then starts knight e5. Okay, so Lawrence is absolutely correct. Bishop e7 in castle. And of course, not bishop c5, because the c5 is a good spot for our queen, while our queen has just a few squares to escape. By playing bishop c5, we take this square from our queen. So that's why bishop e7 is the best move. Let me show, for example, bishop e5, queen a3, bishop b2, queen a5, and c4 with a strong attack. That's why bishop e7. Knight b3, castle. Bishop e5 is not a threat now, while we can play queen b4. So, for example, bishop e5. Oh, wait, it's blunder because knight e5 now. Okay, let's go back. So queen d3 was put in the game. So if we trade the queens, then he can protect the pawn. Okay, of course, he takes with the c pawn and then plays d3 to d4, protecting on c5. That's why we play knight e4. Knight e5, bishop f6. He takes on c6, so we sacrifice the pawn. Bishop d7, knight a5, but then rook f c8. We are threatening to take on c5. Knight b7. And in this position here, we can just escape queen b4 or play e5 like it was in the game. And in case if he captures on d5, bishop c6. Bishop g3, and this is where black played a mistake. Instead of play 7 that he played, he could play queen b4, threatening this knight on d7. Then one of the knights goes to a5. So if queen d5, then knight c3 is a strong move. So for example, if here he takes on he can't take on d7, it's protected by the queen. He has only one move, queen b3. But then we just take his rook because our queen is protected by the bishop on a4. By the bishop standing on d7. Okay, fine. Let's go back. Okay, so until this moment, Bluebaum played really well and his position was slightly better. But after he played rook c7, white became slightly better. Knight d6, he traded the queens, then took on c5. White is still slightly better. c7, knight a5, not the best choice. So then actually it doesn't make sense to continue the analysis, but let me just show the last mistake that black played so that he lost the game. So here, instead of playing just a rook trade and, for example, rook trade, knight b3, knight, so then just simplify the position and have a draw. Oh yeah, it's obviously here black doesn't risk to lose. Maybe some winning chances because of a distant passed pawn. But here, after rook b3, for some reason, Bluebaum played bishop a4. Rook a3, bishop e8, knight takes e8, and then knight c6. So it's a discovered attack. Knight c5, and here the a7 is hanging. But what is more important, knight e5 can be played. And then d4, fork. And white is one pawn up, and this is how white won the game. No, of course they continue with a6. The king also is too far. Yeah, and that's it. c7, and he can't do anything to stop the pawn. If he plays rook e8, he loses his bishop on d6. Okay, so never mind. We don't really need to understand how black played the middle game. Our task was just to learn the basics. So queen takes on b2. Let's go back. Here, knight d2. We can still play queen b6. D takes c5, queen takes b2, rook b1, queen c3, bishop b5, e6, castle, and our task is to play bishop e7, castle, and later take on c5 with our queen. It's a way to escape with our queen, to keep it safe. Okay, let's sum it up, finally. So if you want, you can choose a move order that you like. For example, when you face with d4. Okay, just wait a second. Okay. So when you face with d4, it's up to you. Those who play King's Indian, Nimza Indian, they may play Knight f6. Those who prefer Slav defense and any Queen's Gambit, then they play d5. Then Bishop f4, Knight f6 can be played, or c5 immediately. Let's say Knight f6, Knight f3, c5. Maybe let's make it more flexible. So here e3, c5, c5. Then what? c3, for example, knight c6. Then in this position, he can play knight f3 or knight d2. In case of knight f3, we play queen b6. And now here he has fewer options. Queen b3, queen c2, queen c1. And in case of queen b3, we play c4. In case of queen c2, we play g6, develop our bishop to g7. If, for example, he plays c3 and then knight d2, we do bishop f5, and after queen b3, we can play queen d7 if we are not afraid of knight e5, like it is in this position. And for example, if knight f3, then just c4 here, he has to go back. And just e6 and knight e5 isn't a threat in this position while the pawn is already on c4. Okay, if here after bishop f5, knight goes to f3, then we do e6. And in case of queen b3 here, we have to play queen c8, unfortunately. Well, what means unfortunately? Of course, it's not a mistake, but yeah, this move. Okay. If they don't play c3, but play here, for example, like this, knight d2, we can play queen b6. And if they sacrifice the pawn on b2, we take it. If we know the move order, we are able to equalize the position. At least equalize. Of course, we can get a better position. So don't forget that your queen should have enough squares to escape. Okay, so everything will be uploaded to our Tricks of Chess group on chess.com. Okay, good question. Do I recommend London system for white? I recommend London system to play as white if only you have some problems with your memory and it's difficult for you to learn something that is better, something that requires more knowledge. Then you may play London. But if your memory is enough to learn a good opening like Queen's Gambit, like maybe some e4 openings, then you'd better play them. So I prefer to play open positions, so I play e4 as the first move. Also, I kindly recommend you all to subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is the link. Wait. Okay, so there is a question. What about Marshall Gambit? What is Marshall Gambit? Of course, I know this opening. I just no, just tell me the concrete move order. Of course, I met it. Maybe we can use Google to search it. Marshall Gambit. What is it? Okay, so you mean Marshall Gambit in Ruy Lopez? Because of course I know it. It is, yeah. Okay, no. The Marshall Gambit in Tarrasch defense. Which one of them? Oh, there are several. Paulson. Okay, actually, this is what I played when I was younger, when I was a kid. I played Marshall Gambit in the Scandinavian. Yeah, it's a good idea to play it in Scandinavian. In Tarrasch defense, I don't know. I didn't play it. In Semislav defense, I know. Marshall Gambit in Semislav defense. It's too risky to play for black, and possible for white. And in Paulson, 460, 45. I don't. It's French defense, 93, c5. No. Okay. Marshall Gambit in Ruy Lopez. So it's not shown here as Marshall Gambit because it's called not Marshall Gambit. It's called Marshall Counterattack. Marshall's Counterattack. And I think at your level, this is one of the best openings for black against Ruy Lopez. Because here in this position, in Ruy Lopez, black gets the initiative, and it's really difficult to defend. And white has to know the move order, the theory, and so on. But black just keeps attacking, and that's it. That's why if I were playing for white, I would do something to not to allow black to play Marshall's counter attack. Okay, so good question. What is Marshall counterattack? e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castle. Okay, just wait a second. b5, go here, bishop e7, c3, castle. No, the pawn is hanging. Okay, so here rook e1, castle, c3, d5. So here black sacrifices the pawn on e5, but then c6 and bishop d6 and queen h4 is a strong attack. So this is Marshall counter attack. Now it's not the point of our today's webinar. I just shared my opinion about it. Okay, if you don't have any questions, then that's it for today. Thank you for subscribing for my YouTube channel. The PGN will be uploaded tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Okay, and please email me to suggest the topics for new webinars. Thank you for attending this webinar.